For those that have been listening to the Curious Builder podcast, you know how much I love the Contractor Coalition Summit. It's been the single biggest force multiplier in my business over 21 years. We're excited to announce again that we're coming back to Chicago November 7th through the 10th. All the details can be found at thecontractorcoalitionsummit.com. And under the promo code for a $2,500 discount, type in Curious Builder. We'll see you in Chicago.
When you're on an extreme fitness journey, food can often feel like the enemy. Honestly, it's something I battle with even today, trying to figure out what type of foods I should be eating more often to fuel my body versus the things I really just enjoy to eat. And that a good combination of both is really important. That's a hard thing to learn, man.
Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today is our Thursday segment, Losers Are Winners. And I've got a good friend of mine, Mike Weaver from Emser Tile on the podcast, straight out of his car. What's up, Mikey?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. Well, it's funny. Speaking of failures, we were going to talk about some other stuff, but we don't have, I don't have from my tile vendor what I need to talk about. So we are shifting.
By the way, you're not referring to me. Hold on. You're not referring to me.
I know. I said my tile guy, not you.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's on our team. But anyway, so we're doing an audible, and I thought you've obviously been a long-time listener, first-time caller. I always wanted to say that. So what you got? You've got a long career. We'll have you on a future episode to talk about some other topics, but this whole series is about what can we learn from each other, both personally, professionally, stories you've seen. You also interact with so many builders and designers, things that you see. But, let's keep it personal. What are some failures that you've had in your own career that looking back, you realize the person you are today, the operator you are today, is a result of how you changed because of those failures?
Do you want to start with a professional failure?
Sure.
Okay, I have a good one. So I have been, first of all, I'm currently the vice president of Emser Tile, responsible for sales, about half of the business. And I started just about 20 years ago in Reno, Nevada. My second location was in San Jose, California. And at that time, our business was about, I'm so excited to share this story. Don't hate me after I tell you. About 40% of our business in that market was production home builder. And then about 10% was kind of luxury and custom. And somewhere in the middle was a kind of semi-custom business that a guy did a lot of sales volume. I'm going to refrain from sharing his name because I know he's a listener, but I'm going to just jump in. So I was the operations manager at the time and responsible for all of the sales order entry, all of the logistics and tracking for all of his tile supply. We were his exclusive tile provider. And he was also really good friends with, at that time, the vice president of our production builder segment. And if you ever, and I'm sure your listeners can relate, if there was ever a customer that you were going to screw up on, it's usually that same customer over and over again. I don't know why, but it's just kind of a reality. And so I used to get really anxious entering the sales orders. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. I had gotten all caught up with all of the order entry. And I get a call one day, and it's this gentleman named Rich. And again, I'm going to save the business name. And Rich says, "Hey, Mike, listen, I'm calling to check on purchase order CG, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't see the order in the system. First thing I thought was, oh, crap. I'm sure I missed it and forgot to get into the system, which meant his order's not going to be here tomorrow when he expects it. So I call him back and said, listen, I'm sorry, but your material has to come from Seattle. It's not going to be here till Friday. This call was probably on a Monday or Tuesday. I said that out of angst and probably fear that he was going to be so upset that his material wasn't there. Transparently, the material was never ordered. It wasn't coming from Seattle. As a matter of fact, we don't have a distribution center in Seattle, but I was thinking of a place that had the longest distance, enough time for me to order his material and get it here by Friday so that I could kind of fulfill my lie. And I didn't know it, but a few minutes later, I get a call from another gentleman that worked in our Sacramento location, and they said, "Mike, I've got some bad news." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, I got a call from this guy named Rich looking for this order. He gave me a purchase order, and I saw the order was in the system, but it was just entered today." And I told him that it was just entered today, coming from California, and it would be there on Thursday. Now, I just told this customer, a longtime exclusive Emser customer, that the material was coming from Seattle and will be there on Friday to try to save myself some embarrassment and good, bad, or indifferent. It was an absolute lie. Subsequently, the customer spent a year not talking to me and not ordering product from me.
Oof.
Not only did he spend that year, but he also called the president of our company to share this lie that I told. Now, I've been in business a long time. It is not my theory to lie to people. I will tell you this, though. I learned from that moment on to be absolutely transparent, whether it's good or bad, because ultimately, when we did connect, Rich and I, he shared that he wasn't mad that the material wasn't there, that I forgot to enter the order. It sucked, but he would have dealt with that. The fact that he had put all this trust and faith in our relationship and our ability to supply product, and that I would lie to his face, changed our relationship. Honestly, it changed it forever. Ultimately, he began ordering again a year later and is still exclusive with us today in that same market. But our relationship will never be the same. And since then, I have always simply been transparent, even if I have some bad news to share. But it was probably the hardest lesson. And look, I'm a bit of a hustler, right? So I've always tried to find a way to get through to make it happen. And it was just a terrible mistake, honestly. And again, I've learned so much from that single experience. And also, every time someone asks me about a failure story, that's the story I tell. It was brutal.
I mean, that's a great one. I think we can all relate to that, to whether it's personal, professionally, whatever it is. And I think in sales, I mean, we're always trying to rosy it up a little bit, right? We're afraid of letting them down. But you're right. I mean, it's kind of like the first cut's the deepest, but at least it's a clean cut, going medical, like if a if a wound gets infected, it's far worse often than the actual wound itself.
Sure.
And so that's kind of speaks to that. Wow. How I assume you use that even in your sales meetings and as you train your people, just because it's such a
Yeah.
powerful lesson.
Yeah, so one of the things that I have a newer person that started with me in South Florida. She's also responsible for our New York, New Jersey market. And really, the first conversation that I had with her was transparency. And as we've built this business over now 20 years, and my specific involvement in the custom and luxury space, I've learned that customers buy from people they trust. You become partners, and you create something more than just a business relationship or a purchaser and a supplier. You become friends and confidants, and you build a certain level of respect. And the last thing you want to do is lose that respect. That's a topic of education for every new person I hire, really, and has been since a couple of weeks after that incident in San Jose, California, that changed my life
Yeah. How many years ago was that?
about 20 years ago.
That was also was at the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing you learned it as a young person because a lot of
I
times
would
people,
also share that it was
yeah,
right before the crash of '08, and I think people saw things coming, and we were short staffed, and I was just looking for an excuse, and it just honestly, it was all bad. It was all bad.
right. Right. What about personally? What comes to mind if you were to think about that personally? Things that you've,
Oh
you
man.
know,
So you and I have spent a lot of time talking about operating in the health and wellness space, and over the course of the last few years, I've lost what 100 almost 170 pounds in the last 5 years.
by the way, the picture you posted this weekend was insane. I've never
It's
seen.
wild, isn't it?
You've referred to it many times, but I've never actually seen that
My
picture.
waist in that picture, by the way, was a 56.
What is it today?
36.
Insane. That's amazing.
So I have been on this low carb journey, honestly, probably 25 years. No joke. Since before I was married, since before I started with Ems, and I've always struggled with my weight and fitness, and I've always been the fat friend or the always been the biggest. And one of the biggest mistakes that I made was I would go on these 5-day diets, and then I would take the weekend off, and I get back on, and I take the weekend off, I get back on, and I did that for quite literally probably 18 to 20 years. And I couldn't figure out, I would have these spikes of weight loss or really, some good progress. Still, I was actually, from my perspective, disgusting, but I would have little wins and get excited and then go on benders. And it wasn't until my daughter, I've got two things that brought this to life. One thing is my daughter told me that I was fat, and she said it so innocently. She said, "Oh, Daddy, you fat, Daddy." And that was one. And then another experience about 5 years ago was I was boarding the plane, and I was not in first class, but in like the second set of economy plus or something like that. And the stewardess, I don't know if you can say stewardess, but anyway, the stewardess asked me, a flight attendant, if I needed a seatbelt extender. And I said no. But the reality is I did, and it was terribly uncomfortable to sit in that seat, and I didn't get one. But I realized kind of in that moment that I've got to do something and just not look back. And at that moment, I began this really intense journey of kind of focusing on my health and wellness first and putting everything else somewhat second. And in part it was for my family and my wife and my daughter, and really in part it was for my own self-confidence. And then, like a year later, after this journey, I'm visiting with my dad in Oregon. He's a pastor and really, really wonderful individual. And he said to me, he said, son, when people follow you, they they want to know that you can do what you say and say what you do. And if you can't control what you put in your mouth and how often you go to the gym and take care of yourself, how do you expect to run an entire team? How do you expect to run a multi-million dollar business if you can't even control what you eat and your fit? And that those combination of things absolutely changed my life. And then of course I met you and all these other fitness freaks that were also builders, and now I just can't help it.
I mean, that's an amazing story. It's funny because those three items I've always wondered about. I think everyone's on their own journey, and regardless of where you're at, in some ways, it doesn't matter. It's more like you can take inspiration from others, but ultimately, and we hope our stories and our shared camaraderie can all encourage each other wherever we're at, both professionally, in this case, personally. But it seems like it's such an individual thing. I was just talking to someone recently about something quite similar, and I just said I personally don't believe in diets. I believe in lifestyle changes,
Okay.
because I don't, a diet doesn't, like you already kind of illustrated, Monday through Friday you had a diet, but then Saturday and Sunday was a different lifestyle. And until you kind of had that aha moment or kind of came to whatever it is, and you know, I I'm not probably the person to talk about this, but I guess what comes to mind is somewhat of addiction, because like, my wife is a physician, and I, just we've talked before about people she sees in the hospital that have drug seeking addictions, or alcohol addictions, or in this case it's a food addiction, if you will, or regulation. I mean, there's so many. I mean, and you can have healthy pursuits that are out of whack. I mean, anorexia,
Sure.
bulimia. I mean, I used to coach cross country running for 10 years, and I coached the guys team, and it seemed at that time that the boys had less issues with this, but the girls coach and I would talk all the time, and we would see red flags where it was the other way, where people were starving themselves.
Sure.
You need food, you need fuel, depending on what your goal is. And so it's a
Which is
super,
hard to
yeah.
learn, by the way. That lesson, when you're on an extreme fitness journey, food can often feel like the enemy, right? And
Mhm.
I know this wasn't about health and wellness necessarily,
Yeah.
but like there it's a real thing. And even honestly, it's something I battle with even today, trying to figure out what type of foods I should be eating more often to fuel my body versus the things I really just enjoy to eat. And that a good combination of both is really important. But
Uh,
that's a hard thing to learn, man.
this episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI powered bill pay, automated draws, one click payments, and built in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top tier service make them a no brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. You touched on something, as you know, and I think some of the audience knows, the last 3 years I've kind of gotten into, ultra distance events. And a big part of it is fueling is fuel. I mean, it's, you can't put, you can't put diesel in a jet airplane. It needs jet fuel. And runners or whatever sort of fitness you're into, like you need the proper fuel.
Yep.
So you've heard the thing, especially in running, they call it skinny fat, where people do a ton of exercise, but they actually are not fueling properly, and it's very
Sure.
dangerous. And I think, as we sort of our lives change as you get older, I mean, this is all of a sudden turning into a health podcast, which we need to have, which you and I would totally be totally on board with. We just need to have someone more qualified to speak about it. But I think what's sort of interesting is to your point, like there needs to be a blend of enjoyment, because if you cut out enjoyment, what are you doing it for? And I think you can do it for a short period of time. But if you can't sort of, there's this, you're going to love this quote. I forget who said it. Like, if you can make pain your friend, you'll never be alone in your life. And the point was like ultra running or like distance events, you sort of have to embrace the suck, or otherwise that you honestly, like I do, like there's something about it that you can sort of trick your mind where like there's some enjoyment in this suffering. And
I,
I
I
think
have such a
exercise.
I have such a similar story, and we've probably got to move off the health and fitness. I'm going to say this. I've got one more thing I want to say about that.
Yeah, yeah, go.
So I go to the gym every single morning between 4 and 6 a.m. That's my start time. And I
Yep.
have this addiction to being there at least 2 hours, usually three or two and a half, something like that. And there's two things that I've become incredibly addicted to. First, getting there earlier than everyone else,
Hmm.
and being able to do 200% of my calorie goal during that workout for the day. So the objective is that I burn 2,400 calories at a minimum within those 3 hours at the gym, or 2.5 hours, whatever.
Hmm.
If not, definitely that 2,400 by the end of the day. And I hate to go to the gym. I hate it. I hate to work out. Like, but I also am addicted to it. Like, I know what it does for my body. I know I can see the physical transformation. So as much as I hate the actual experience and like the effort and the sweat, and I just can't help it. And I don't want the alternative.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, way more than the next 5 minutes can entail. I'd say the one thing I'd say about enjoyment, because there's obviously competition or there's dopamine hit. I mean, you've set yourself a goal that by getting there earlier, it's like a little early win. And we do need to sort of stack early wins, right? And I think if you can find joy, then it's, in my opinion, it's sustainable. And so I do think some people are very self-motivated. You're very self-motivated. You can find joy sort of in solitude and in a number of different little goals with yourself. But there's something really powerful about camaraderie, meaning like I was just like right now I'm transitioning. I'm in my off season, and plus I'm injured right now, so I'm trying to rehab my foot. And so I can't run, I can't play basketball, I can't play tennis, any of those things that I like to do. So I have to switch to something else. And it's been a tougher adjustment than I'd like, because I am such a people person and
Sure.
I really thrive in a team concept. So one of the reasons why I'm able to run is like I don't even consider it running. In fact, I always like to joke with people, I actually don't like running. I
Really?
just happen to like, yeah, not really. I mean, it's fine. And but I like the goal. I like the difficult objective, but
Okay.
ultimately I like the people I train with. So I spend so much time with this, let's call it a group of anywhere between 7 and 15 people, whether I'm biking or running with them, that it's life, it's camaraderie. I mean, you're spending hours and hours either biking or running. And so really to me, it's like philosophy lessons. It's like you're running through the woods talking about life. You're talking about business. You're talking about your personal life. You're
Yeah.
talking about their life. You're talking about pop culture. And so it's like you're getting the news. It's the equivalent of like a Russian bathhouse, except sitting there sweating, you're running and sweating. So the sweating is the same. But for me, it's the camaraderie. Like I am just such a people person. If I was a fish, I'd probably be a tuna, not a very sexy fish, but like I'd swim like in a giant pack with a bunch of other fish. And so it's like, I would not be a solo fish. I would be a very depressed solo tuna wandering the ocean.
So we have what I think is 3 minutes left, and you said something when you started that small monologue just now about being a tuna, which I absolutely love because I see you as a tuna. You said something about early wins, and I want to touch on that because it's something I believe in very much. And I've always been like a very big thinker. Like you know, if I look at the goals that I set for myself and my team, I always think really terribly huge, always. And I'm sitting with this brand new hire for the DFW Metroplex, specifically focused on our custom home builder and outdoor business. And I set a sales goal for this rep, and it blew his mind. And I said, I expect you within the first 6 months to do $400,000 a month. And that's a lot of business. It's about $4.8 million dollars a year, which is my minimum expectation. And I said, but you've got to boil it down to small wins. So I'm going to help you find on Monday. So today, after our podcast, actually a little bit later, but I said, I'm going to go help you find a small win. And if you think of it this way, to do $400,000 a month, you need 20 customers that spend $20,000 a month. Okay, that's the thought. You need 20 customers to spend $20,000 a month. So I'm going to help you find the 20 customers, and every customer you find that you make a commitment to that can do that sales volume that also makes a commitment to you, you now go down to 19 or 18 or 17, so on and so forth. If you boil the math down that way, first of all, I don't call on a customer that can't spend on average $20,000 a month. I got big goals, And so that's exactly how I think of finding like just really big success is finding that early win, that first, relationship or that first customer that helps you get over that thought that, man, this is insurmountable. Um, and I'm honestly, Mark, I live my life that way. Those small early wins, that one customer, that one relationship can change. It can absolutely change the game.
Well, and we used to have this thing. So I don't know if I told you this. So back I was 23 years old. I just graduated college and I was in sales for 1 year selling copiers. And
Okay.
I loved it. It was awesome before I started my home company. And that's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, long story short, I had a sales trainer, Lenny. I can't remember his last name, Lenny. He looked like, yeah, crew cut. He looked like he belonged to the military. I mean, but he was a good sales trainer. Anyway, he told us reduce to the ridiculous. And so the idea is like, the numbers are going to be wrong, but you'll get the overarching theme was like, let's say you sell a 3-year lease to a company. And let's just say the unit is like a $10,000, color copier, blah, blah, blah. And you would, rather than saying like, hey, this is a $10,000 copier, the first thing you could do is most of the leases run a 36-year lease. So all
Okay.
of a sudden now it's like $100 a month or whatever it is. But then you reduce it even more. You can reduce it to the page per cost or per day. So my
Mm,
kind of reduce to the ridiculous was like, hey, Mike, I know this copier is going to transform your business. And I know for you, it's a capital investment, but how would you feel about for $1 a day, you could have this XYZ machine? I mean, $1 a day, who can't afford $1 a day? I mean, that's 1/9 of a cup of coffee at Starbucks. And so anyway, the point of it is I've often thought about that. I don't actually do that well enough in high-end construction because I don't usually, let's say you're doing a $5 million house, to reduce it. I mean, it's probably not the worst idea in the world. And it really works good, I think, when it terms financing 30-year mortgages, all those kinds of concepts. But to go one step further, back to the little, Atomic Habits was one of my
mhm.
favorite books a
Mine
couple
too.
years ago. And again, it's habit stacking.
Mhm.
So it could be a phone call. Let's go back to your analogy of this person that has to find 20 clients. You can make, you can only control what you can control. Honestly, he can't control those 20 clients,
Yep.
but what he can control is he can call 60, he can call 100, like whatever the number is to get to 20, however many appointments. I mean, the only thing he can control is a call or an email and a meeting. So, I mean, I know every salesperson in the world can do this, but like essentially you work it backwards. How many calls? And if you're an amazing closer, you don't have to make as many calls. But some point, even if you're a bad closer, you just need more volume.
Yep, that's right.
You just need
I
to
believe that I am a terrible salesperson. I do. I'm a great friend. I'm a great comrade. I build trust and rapport quickly because I love people and try to be always very honest. But I don't think I really know how to sell. What I try to, the second thing I teach this guy out of these 20 clients is those 20 that you meet, that first one probably knows a few more people that you should know that could be your 20. And this person that we're going to meet today at 10:30 Central Time is a pool builder. Is a very popular pool builder in the market. Also, I met him from a builder that I work with exclusively in the Metroplex, and he does work with about seven custom home builders, and he does their pools. And so I'm going to kill two birds with one stone with Mr. Garrett, my new hire. We're going to help him find one of his accounts that's going to do $20,000 a month. That's his pool and outdoor account. And then we are going to leverage my relationship with this pool builder and help him build a relationship so that this pool builder introduces him to the six other builders that we don't work with today. And he will now have seven accounts with that one first easy win. I guarantee it.
I I mean, I think you're the best. I mean, you know that, and when we have you on for your solo episode, like, I still think you use it because it's the most effective, and honestly, I can't think of anything more effective. I've heard you talk about the Contractor Coalition Summit because you've been a longtime sponsor there. I've heard you talk about it at Builder Trend Stage at IBS when I was up there with you. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever been at a, which I don't, I'm not telling you to change, because every time I hear it, it's kind of like you kind of want to, I mean, I can't think of another example because yesterday was Sunday, but it's like church. Like when I go to church, I want to hear about Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard about Jesus my entire life for 45 years, but like, I'm not going to church to hear about something else. Like, I'm going to church to hear about Jesus. And where I'm saying this is like, yes, it's predictable what you're going to say, but like, it's very foundational to like your business message, which, we're separate from the church here. And it's, but this leveraging of partnerships, and you go into this whole speech about how leveraging each other's partnerships, leverage is not a bad word.
Not a bad
It's a
word.
positive word. It's really, it's basically, I like to use the word force multiplier. It's a way to exponential extra growth.
Yeah.
And that is the number one way. And there's a builder here locally. Shout out to Nate. And he's in the Curious Builder Collectives here in Minnesota. And you're gonna love this. I don't know if I told you this story, and then we'll end it. But he said that he asks for 6 referrals before he has a signed contract. And I was like, what? And I was like, I mean, I'm optimistic, I'm pretty good, but like, this guy is like a whole nother
Well, you
level.
know where people make the mistake, Mark, is people don't ask. It's
100%.
people. I think more people will give it to you. I mean, most people will be like, sure, why not? But people don't ask.
But so here's the thing. He also, most of us, even if we do ask, which most of us don't, if we do ask, we ask at the end. And his point is he has a 15-minute phone call. And a 15-minute phone call, and I know this and I still don't do it. I don't know why. I need to change it. And he goes, so let's say, hey, Mike, great to meet you. Regardless of the outcome of that conversation, at some point he'll say, hey, do you know anyone else that would benefit from this 15-minute phone call like this, like we're having? Boom, that's one opportunity. Then they have their 1-hour meeting. And after their 1-hour meeting, he says, hey, we've had our 1-hour meeting and our 15-minute phone call. Do you know anyone else that would benefit from a 1-hour meeting like we're having? Another chance for a referral. And on the process goes. And I'm just like tipping my hat, just
So
be like, you are next level, man.
we have to end, but I have to tell you, there's this really famous designer in Colorado that I met from Tim at Aldi Construction, who I absolutely love. And she is like super, super big time. And I, of course, am terribly presumptuous and always ask for probably more than I deserve. And I'm on this call with her going through what I believe is unbelievable sales pitch. And I'm really just expressing a value proposition, right? Which is kind of all I do. And she tells me, she's like, well, listen, is there anything else that, we're just about to the end. She said, is there anything else you want to talk about? And I said, well, here's my only question. I have a rule when I garner a new customer. I have an expectation. My expectation is that you introduce me to everyone that could find value in what I offer, and my commitment is that I will do the exact same thing. We hang up the phone, and she sends 2 introductory emails, one to a builder in Miami, Florida, and one to a builder in Montana, introducing me to them and recommending that we get on a call. And all I could think about was the worst thing that could happen is she could say no. But if you don't ask, very similar to your guy that's asking for that referral, the worst thing you can do is say no. But if you don't ask, they'll never say yes. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
This is incredible, Mark. Wow.
Well, I know. So you should come on the podcast more often.
Oh,
All right. Well, you and I could chat for days. Poor audience. Thanks for coming on the Curious Builder podcast. Every Thursdays are 20-minute segments, or in this case, 27. And every Monday are 1-hour interviews with builders, architects, designers, and owners around the country. Till next time. We've had the podcast now for 2.5 years, coming up on 3, and I get questions all the time through DMs on Instagram, emails, as well as to our account. Maybe we've had a guest on where a question has come up that really triggers an idea for you. If you didn't know, we have a one-to-one consulting session through the Curious Builder platform on our website, curiousbuilder.com or curiousbuilderpodcast.com. You can click on the one-to-one and schedule 1 hour of my time, and we will simply just sit down, have a virtual call, and we'll talk about any business idea that you want, marketing, branding, operations, really anything that helps you and helps your business. Maybe it's a guest that you want an introduction to. Maybe it's a guest we've had on and they brought up something about scaling or hiring and firing, or anything that might resonate with you as a business owner that you want to expand and talk on. We'd be happy to do it. If you're interested in that, please reach out to us at thecuriousbuilderpodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.